Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Super-Fanta-Fi. This being a show where I talk about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of The Outpost. A lot of interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Well, first off, let's talk about everything that deals with Talon and Zed in this episode. Obviously, it's a lot of... I think it's very interesting the direction they're taking this, because obviously Talon's trying to figure out, what side she is on in this whole thing. She does want to rescue her people, but at the same time, she's been living amongst humans for so long. Yeah, because the thing is, she's never had to... Well, she's dealt with the hate that her village received, but that's more so, that was such an isolated thing, because that was more so from Dread. But to be fair, we did see flashbacks where it showed, other humans did treat the Black Blood's bad, in particular her, so there is that side of things. But because she's blended with the humans for so long, I mean, especially because even she refers to it as, because Zed's like, oh, do you ever feel bad about the fact that do you ever regret that you cut off your ears? Because at the time you thought, hey, I'm the only Black Blood, so I have to do whatever it takes to survive, but now that you know there are others, do you regret it? But she's like, why would I regret something that kept me alive this entire time, kind of hiding in plain sight like that. But the thing is obviously they rescue a human family's child from a monster, and which is interesting, little bits here and there you get to see some of the wildlife that exists in this world. It's never the biggest thing. It's usually kind of a one-off thing at any point in time. There were a couple instances of it last season, but even then it's always just kind of a background thing. It's just a little world thing of oh yeah, things like that are just running around. Nevertheless, the woman was so grateful. It's no matter who you are, thank you, Zed, for saving my child. Husband, not as receptive, because it's because he even refers to him later on as the person with the devil ears or whatever. And so for Zed, it's even if you save their baby, they're always gonna look at you. They're always gonna hate you. But Talon's they don't hate you. They're just afraid of you. And he's yeah. And Zed's it must be the pointy ears, because it's not like Black Bloods look any different than humans. You couldn't tell them apart. I mean, that's why all it took was Talon cutting off her ears, and no one ever knew she was a Black Blood. She was able to hide in plain sight. So it's not they're that much different, but they're kind of raised to believe because it's that thing of you look different than me, I should be afraid of you. So I also thought that's kind of an interesting thing of Talon's never been with a Black Blood before, and he's yeah, there's a different thing. I guess it's because it's basically, you'll feel something with another Black Blood that you'll never feel, a certain connection that you'll never feel with a human. Because I guess it's because they are kind of, I guess, not just necessarily they are kind of a different species. So there's different things about them, I'm sure. So it's being with a Black Blood adds this connection. So I'm sure it's nice to kind of, especially after the whole complicated Garrett thing of not just oh yeah, you and Gwen are in love with him, but now it's also oh, he's back and he tried to kill you and Gwen. So there's that whole, adds to the already complicated situation with Garrett. So there's that. And then there's the whole situation of, we learned that oh yeah, the Black Bloods built fortresses and stuff like that, which Talon's my village never built anything like that. We were never even violent people. We just kind of, were very peaceful. We never killed. But, that's just because they kind of pushed away a lot of the Black Blood heritage, their ways. Her village kind of pushed that away, and all for nothing, because at the end they underestimated humans' hate, and that led to their destruction. So but now Zed's saying if we bring back the Black Bloods, we don't even have to put ourselves in a situation where we have to split the world with humans. We can just be here on our own. So I'm curious to see, because obviously Zed doesn't hate humans, and that's the whole conversation that comes up when they visit her human family that was killed by that Black Blood all those years ago. The whole thing of Zed's I don't hate humans. Yes, he does hate them. Actually, he hates them for the fact is that they despise them. They also sent them away all those years ago into the land of shadow and ash. But it's doing what he did. What was the name? Volker. What he did, I would never do something like that. But the thing is, you can't shy away from your hate. So it's can you honestly? But for him, it's that's because Volker, he's he was a monster way before we all got sent to the land of shadow and ash. So it wasn't that big of a stretch. But him and anyone from the Black Fist, they're all like that, But you have Talon saying something I thought was kind of interesting for her. It's but why are you punishing these humans for what their ancestors did? The fact is, they fear you. That's what it, because it's a perpetuated like thing. It's just this fear of like, oh, someone that's different. Once again, we're dealing with, in certain cases, like the Three and Dread, it's a whole prophecy thing. But everyone else, it's just a thing of like, oh, you're something that hasn't really been that frequent in their history. So it's like, you're different. Whoa. And plus, they've heard probably also, not necessarily the same prophecy type of situation, but just like maybe it was a propaganda spread by the Prime Order to be like, oh yeah, there's these evil creatures. I mean, obviously, they're, like I said, like it's the whole thing of like they were like this perpetual lie about them being kind of these evil demons or whatever, which I know is kind of ironic considering the fact is that they have ties to demons, the Valkyria and everything. But you get what I'm trying to say. The fact is that it's a lie that was perpetuated for so long because humans back then feared them, and that fear, even after all this time, is still there. Even though, like, because I'm sure it escalates even more because there's so few Black Bloods. Even that guy selling them out, even though they rescued his child, it's like, oh yeah, that pointy-eared demon is here or whatever. Luckily, or not luckily, easily, Talon and Zed working together kick some serious ass. And it is kind of neat to see them kind of working as a team, even seeing that Talon's kind of having fun. Even Zed's enjoying himself fighting alongside of a Black Blood like that. Which I guess they don't really have. Well, I guess because in the Land of Shadow and Ash, it's such a fight for survival. This was kind of like, yes, fight for survival, but it's also kind of fun. It almost makes it seem like he doesn't. I guess like there's not a lot of cooperation in the Land of Shadow Ash, because I mean, let's not forget what he brought up last episode, that yeah, they work with the Black Fist in the sense of like we're working together to survive, but we deplore everything that they stand and what they represent. So. They do go to the grave and find, the other piece of the key, and they piece it together, and it starts doing some glowy shit. And it's like, what is that? I don't know. I'm curious to see what that ends up being. Like, maybe it amplifies the bug or whatever, and makes it so that it's like a permanent key. Like, the moment you like activate it, it's like, oh, well, like a permanent portal is open. So maybe it's something that has to be used in conjunction to bug as well as this. Maybe not. Maybe it'll awaken some secret power. Maybe some secret Valkyrie that's been sleeping dormant the entire time that no one's been aware of. I don't know. I'm very interested to see ultimately where that goes. And then obviously we got everything going on at the Outpost. Milos is pulling out of the deal, mainly because everyone else is kind of pulling out of the deal. And I also love Eleanor snapping at him because he was making fun of Janzo, being like, oh, he's going to really take care of my cousin. Because it's so sweet, because it's like, don't you badmouth my boy. But I'm sure there's also the aspect of like, well, bad-mouthing Janzo is like bad-mouthing her. So it's like Janzo's reputation is a reflection of her own reputation. Maybe, but I like to think it's just 100% like, she can be kind of like when it comes to being a mother, but sometimes she has sweet moments like that where it's like, hey, look at you kind of defending your son's honor. But Tobin shows up and it's like, the deal we had is kind of off, but Milos is like, oh yeah, there will be a reckoning. So, but it's a combination of many different things. I love that, you have Eleanor suggesting like, hey, like someone needs to go back to make sure Milos isn't going to try and take more of your land than he was promised. But Tobin's not going to go anywhere. And so she suggests Gertie goes, which Gertie's like, no, I can't. I like that because Eleanor's doing that just to be like, yeah, sis, get the hell out of town. And it's like, oh, yeah, you should do this just because she wants her sister going. Because she knows Gertie is up to something, her and Tobin, because she doesn't 100% trust him, especially after the whole wedding situation. Because Gwen was like, you don't trust him? It's like, after that wedding situation, definitely not. Maybe before I wasn't really sure. Now I'm definitely not trusting him because obviously, like, you in particular kind of screwed him over. So it is kind of interesting. I think she removed Gertie just to kind of see what happens. Obviously, they're all kind of allies in this situation. So looking out for each other like that is, necessary for the future, because they're going to be a part of the kingdom and everything. But it's still kind of neat. She did that just kind of tick her sister off, but it's also like probably to get her away from Tobin because the last thing she probably wants is her sister up there whispering in Tobin's ear. So I love that she's sending Munt to go with her too. I thought it was kind of sweet. He's riding on like a donkey or whatever. He's like, bye mom, and she's like, bye love. And it's just like, I don't know, it's adorable. Her giving him more responsibilities and everything. It's like go there and collect taxes, but also keep an eye on your aunt. Because I don't trust her as far as I can throw her. And he's like, yeah, that's not pretty far. And she's just kind of looking at him like, I know I shouldn't trust this to you, but Munt, go ahead. And he's like, I won't let you down. And she's like, I highly doubt that. I also love her situation with Brogan. The fact is, him calling her mom and everything. It's still such a recent thing, him being adopted, and just the fact of him calling her mom. And it's the first time he's actually outright called her mom. I was like, oh, that's actually kind of adorable. Him calling her mom like that. It's like you literally just became a part of this situation. But I guess it's like maybe family is far and few in between in this world. So when you have that family, you take the chances. Or maybe Eleanor was like, no, mom, and he's like, mom, like maybe she kind of had to wear him down, or maybe he's just kind of like, oh, it's been a long time since I've had a mom, or maybe he never had a mom in his life, and so it's like, hey, I'm gonna jump on the opportunity to have you as a mom. Because I love it, because we haven't seen Brogan in a while. He just kind of pops in and out every once in a while. That's kind of interesting. So yeah. I love that Eleanor does scheme a lot. Like, obviously, when Tobin is talking to his cousin, she's talking to another dude, and it turns out they have a connection and stuff like that. I'm like, wait, did you guys sleep together or something? It's like, oh no, he's a customer, and it's like, okay. So she's trying to get Calypso into it. It's like Eleanor forever scheming, literally in the middle of a situation where Milos is trying to take over the Outpost, which I love that scene where Eleanor, the lady's like, surrender to my lord, and Eleanor's like, fire arrow kind of close to her, and then the next one she's like, fire a little closer. Okay, let your lord, let Milos know that if he comes towards his gate, I will shoot him in his idiotic eyes. I forgot what her exact wording was, and then it was like, I will nail him to the gate while he's alive. I even have Tobin kind of looking almost like, damn. I was like, Jesus, when she said that. It's like, no. But to be fair, she's just saying that it's kind of more of a negotiation. It's like, they say some threats, we say some threat, we throw out a whole parlay thing. If it wasn't for like Pirates of the Caribbean, I wouldn't know what parlay was. I only know that, well, mainly because of Kingdom Hearts 2. It's like, did that ever come? That came up in the original Pirate. It's been so long since I watched Pirates of the Caribbean or any of the Pirates movies. It's been a while. But in particular, the first one. I only say that because of the whole Kingdom Hearts connection of regardless, I'm going on a tangent. I bring up Kingdom Hearts a lot, especially because lately I've been playing all the games. It's a whole thing. Regardless, going on another tangent. It's just interesting to see the parlay situation happening and Eleanor out there and everything. So it's interesting. Like Milos's whole thing of hey, work with me, cousin. And I'm curious what this whole false queen thing is about. I guess it's not, either he's believing the Prime Order's lies, or it might be a situation of it's just kind of convenient because the real queen, the real Princess Rosalind is dead. So it's like you hidden, so I guess it makes that narrative easy to kind of, so I'm sure it never came up in season 1 of doubters, but I guess there are people out throughout the kingdom who are nah, that's not the real Rosalind, so I guess that's what that's all going to be. So it's kind of interesting. It's not just brainwashed people like Garrett. It's just people in general. There are pockets of people. More so than anything, it's what you're doing is just because I think it's a thing of they live in a world where the Prime Order kind of runs things. So any Queen Rosalind stuff is false hope in their eyes. So it's I'm gonna get what I want. Obviously this whole pie belongs to the Prime Order, but I'm gonna make sure I get my own slice of it, no matter how small it is. I want my, he'd want his own, pen to play in, because basically the kingdom is a sandbox that the Prime Order just lets everyone kind of kick it in their little corner. So it's hey, you can have your pocket and do whatever you want to in that corner as long as you're doing what we want you to do, type of thing. So I just think that's kind of interesting. But what I think, the moment Eleanor was oh, I'm a genius, the moment it's yeah, everyone on that side has got all the Calypsum, and she says that I'm a genius thing, my mind was, because I was thinking wait, was this Eleanor's plan the entire time? Get everyone in the army on Calypsum, because remember, they even brought it up at the beginning of the season. Everyone knows Calypsum plays a role in you becoming a plagueling, but no one gives a shit. It's so addictive that no one cares about what that can mean for them, that they're willing to keep doing it. Just, it's like any drug. Once you get hooked, you're hooked. But then she said that made me go, she plans on turning them all plagueling, doesn't she? Probably because, let's not forget, she does have a few plaguelings caged up and around. So does Janzo, but, this is going to be a much more particular strike. She might even be using some of Janzo's, but obviously she's not letting, because obviously Gwen doesn't know that there's like, oh, underneath the city, there's a plagueling farm, that she uses to farm Calypso. So there's that whole situation. So I'm thinking she's planning on doing that and kind of dismantling Milos's army. And it's like, oh, well, the fact is Plagueling's going to spread like crazy, but you're going to need my son, who you talk smacked about this episode. He's the one working on a cure, so you better come and beg and you better play nice, or Plagueling's going to spread like crazy. I mean, because even if they manage to kill all the Plaguelings, it's like, all we need to do is send more in that direction, because you've all eaten Calypso. So, I mean, I've said eaten Calypso. You've all taken Calypso, so it's in your system. All we need to do is hit you with a Plagueling, and it all gets set up. So, it's definitely interesting to see how that kind of ultimately ends up playing into the episode. The other side of things is the Garrett situation. Garrett's, continued reluctancy to believe this whole situation. He's like, no, my truth is my truth. He's tried to attempt to break out multiple times. Janzo was there to kind of stop him. It's even sad because at one point Gwen, the exact same lie he was telling Talon last episode, but Talon didn't want, she kind of saw through it. But Gwen, she's so in love, she wants the man that she loved back, that she got too close and he tried to strangle her, and it's basically to the point, it's like, either fix him or kill him, because I can't stand and look at him this way. But then Janzo ends up finding out when he tries to attempt to escape again, like, oh, this particular route makes you very susceptible. So it's like, yeah, obviously the medication. And it's like, I need this to survive. But Janzo gives him something to kind of flush it out of his system. It's like, he's like, yes. He's like, now I can't really blame you, because it's like you were being drugged and manipulated. So I can't necessarily, he's like, I forgive you because I can't necessarily blame you because you were being drugged. Everything you've done wasn't kind of your own volition. It was kind of, you were manipulated into it. But it seems like whatever the root still hasn't 100% left his system, as he ends up escaping later because he's planning to still kill Gwen. So there's that. But let's not forget, at the same time, she's shacking up with Tobin right now. Like I said, I get the feeling like no matter what the circumstances is, even if Garrett returns to being who he is, Tobin and Gwen is set, I think, because she's fallen for, like I said, I think it's going to be that thing of like, no matter what, she's always going to have a hard time ever trusting Garrett again. But also it's like, I promise, and who am I to turn my back on Tobin? He's been nothing but loyal to me. Once again, he has his own agenda, but at the same time, I think he is being truthful when he says, like, the reason why, like, despite everything that's happened, he's there to help. The reason why he hasn't betrayed Gwen, because I love it, because it's like, oh, because she had brought it up earlier in the episode. He's like, the fact of the matter is, I'm not rolling with Milos. Like, we don't need his. And me and my men will stay here. And she's like, why? And he's like, the fact is, you're the rightful queen, and you're the one that kind of lead this, world in a different direction. And she's like, plus it also doesn't hurt the fact is that, well, you're already kind of screwed with the Prime Order because they already know what you are up to with this. So even if this doesn't go well, you're still screwed because the Prime Order is going to know you betrayed them. And he doesn't even deny. He's like, yeah, that's part of it too, so. But even then, like, the fact is that for him to be like, I'm worried about your well-being. Yes, it could all be part of a con, but I think it's like, no, I think, he, like I said, he is legitimately shifting. I think it isn't, like I said, I think there's always going to be a small part of it about, the whole legacy thing. But maybe it's also because he doesn't have, Gertie whispering in his ears. I mean, I think that says a lot. Maybe Gertie was also worried, like, if I'm not around, he's going to screw things up. But he's been good and better recently. But I think his feelings for her legitimately are starting to have an effect. It isn't just like, oh, this is about legacy. I think it is also like he's starting to have a thing for her. So it's definitely interesting to see where all that ends up taking us going forward into the next episode. Everything with Milos, now with Garrett, because as we know, like, Prime Order soldiers are supposed to be marching on the Outpost soon enough because of the 3 and everything. So much is happening. I think that this week's episode is the season finale. Season 1 was only 10 episodes, so I'm assuming this season's the same. I wasn't paying too much attention. I haven't looked on IMDb to see how many episodes. I'm assuming so. Maybe next week's episode is the season finale. Like I said, I'm assuming. We'll see. So, but I'm very interested to see what ends up going down. There's obviously so much happening all at once. So, we'll see. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Until the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and good